So let's compare Coleman's original older start to his newer updated start. I think going through this video, there's a few things that should be pretty obvious. I think the number one thing that people will say and notice is he's dragging 3 times in his updated start, whereas in his older start, there's much more stepping over and there's a higher heel recovery. There's also a few other things that I've noticed. So if we go back, the very first thing I would say that I notice is look at the rear leg off the block there. So he's stepping over from the beginning. If you look at his updated start, he's actually dragging from the block. So really, we could probably call this 3.5 drags, not just 3. Also, I would say there is also more extension on subsequent strides. Now, initially, they both reach this final position, right? He's reaching the same final position. However, how you get there is also important. But on subsequent strides, he's almost fully extended here. He's almost fully extended. And here, it almost looks like he's 100% completely extended, although it's probably a little bit of an optical illusion with the camera angle. But you can clearly see that in his newer updated start, much less extension. Much less extension. Not only that, but his hips are lower to the ground as well. His whole body is just lower to the ground. His pelvis, his hip position, his center of gravity, almost like he's lunging out. Whereas in his original start, it does not appear that way at all. The other thing that I notice is how much space he has with his foot to the ground. So look how much space there is before his foot hits the ground. So when it comes from the highest peak position, there's a lot of space for the foot to move. Whereas in his newer start, there's not much space at all. So less range through the hips. Now, what's important really that I want to talk about is negative foot speed. So negative foot speed is the speed of that leg, the driving leg, going down and back. And it goes down and back. When you have long levers like this, it does impact your negative foot speed significantly, in my opinion. You take a look at how much space he has to drive that foot down and back. And it also really helps him to get nice deep angles, but without having to lunge and force himself to be low to the ground. You could see how much space there is for the foot to drive down and back. A lot of negative foot speed. Now, some might argue this is excessive airtime. In the new start, he's getting rid of some useless airtime. But I'm going to show you why that airtime isn't useless. So since he's spending just maybe a little bit more time in the air, the result, though, is you're going to have more force through the ground, and you're going to do it in a shorter period of time. You're also going to have higher hips over the ground. So when he shortens this back leg, you can see as he shortens his back leg, he clearly does it by a good margin. It adds to the angular velocity of this back leg coming through. So this back leg is coming through at a much higher speed, which is going to result in more force. What also is it going to do? It's going to aid the driving leg that's going down and back, right? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So this back leg goes up and forward at with higher speed. That means the driving leg is going to go down and back with more force, more speed too. And they aid each other, and that's so important in sprinting, is that the arms and legs do have to be opposite of one another, but the legs having opposing forces is actually really important, because the more I can drive one leg down and back and the other up and forward with the proper timing, of course, and not too much exaggeration, then you're going to run faster. But you look at the new start, and he's really dragging this really long lever, and there's just not enough time for him to generate as much negative foot speed. You can even see the shin. Look at the shin. It's almost just staying vertical here. He's not really getting it to drive down and back. It might even be drifting very slightly forward, which is not good at all. You see that there is not as much of that down and back driving of the shin. And a lot has to do with the recovery leg, waiting for it to come through, fighting this upward counter rotation. It creates a lot of issues, actually. If you go back to his original start, you can see how much more smooth it is. But look at the shin angle. The shin goes from horizontal on the recovery leg, and then it quickly goes vertical, very quickly. So look at the change in speed and how quickly that rotation happens. I mean, it happens within a matter of just a couple of frames, where it goes from horizontal to more vertical to prepare for ground strike. But with his older start, or his newer start, as he drags that through, first off, it never gets that horizontal as with a higher heel recovery. The shin stays more vertical, which again affects the horizontal force through the driving leg. And look how long it takes to actually reach its peak position, right? It's not going suddenly from horizontal to vertical. It's going from like semi-horizontal to like semi-vertical, and it takes time. And there's not nearly as much negative foot speed going on. So, and that's going to affect, obviously, your transition. It's going to affect your top speed. It's just, overall, I would say, you take a look at these starts, it's so much more smooth in his original start when he's running more naturally. Another aspect of this is, look at what happens with the rear leg as it shortens the lever, and look at the arm, the opposite arm. See how the opposite arm shortens it? His left arm here is shortening. If your left arm is going to shorten, then your opposite leg, your right leg, should be shortening as well, which it is here. And so these forces are working together. It makes such a difference. Whereas in his updated start, there's not the same amount of rotation in that right leg or in the left leg, the recovering leg. And then the opposite arm, though, is shortening. So you're not actually working together. You're not maximizing the potential force. Because at the end of the day, there are some people who are going to argue that you want to cut your airtime short like he is here. Now, that might make you a little bit quicker at the start, maybe. But what you're going to impair is the force through the ground, which pays off in the long run, and which is most important. The forces are set up here to drive with lots of negative foot speed down and back, stepping over, allowing for those things to happen. And even though there might be slightly more airtime, he's using it to his advantage to apply more force through the ground. Yes, maybe less airtime is going to maybe increase your frequency, and he'll be a little bit quicker to his next step. But it's not going to have the same payoff in terms of force production as if you get that foot where it needs to be. It has a lot of space to move down and back and to hit the ground with lots of velocity, which is a huge key to sprinting. Other than that, I would say just taking a look at how he moves, again, closer to full speed. I don't have full speed, footage on it, but if you just look at it overall, it's so much more smooth. He's not working against himself right here. So much more smooth. You can see how much more effort he has when he's dragging this long lever through. So we're not just talking about mechanics from like a physics perspective, but it's also what is being demanded of your muscles. So when you shorten the lever, as he is here, shortening the lever, allowing for that to happen, that's less work for your hip flexor. Now the hip doesn't have to flex as much. More momentum is carrying that leg through. Here, much longer lever, the hip flexor has to yank and work harder, which could add to stiffness, make you less smooth, and it could cause you to have tightness, and that can affect the rest of your race. So, anyways, those are some thoughts when I'm looking at these starts. That'll pretty much be it for today.